Oh, Jackie boy. During the 2000s, the Buffalo Sabres were a great team. I know, right? Weird. Led by Daniel Bure, Thomas Vanek, a Vezina-winning Ryan Miller, Buffalo had many 50-plus win successful seasons. But around 2012, things started to go downhill. However, things were still looking bright. They would draft Sam Reinhart second overall in 2014. 2015, after finishing with a horrendous 23, 51, and 8 record, they would be blessed with the highest odds of winning McDavid. Now, of course, they would lose the draft lottery to the Oilers, but they would receive a fantastic runner-up prize, which was Jack Eichel. Because after having an exceptional season with Boston College, Eichel was poised to be the beacon of light for the Sabres. And so he was, as Eichel slowly but surely developed into a franchise center and one of the top centers in the league. But there was always an issue. Horrible management. The Ryan O'Reilly trade was not pretty at all, especially in hindsight. They would give my boy Jeff Skinner one of the worst contracts in the league. Actually, let me re-say that. They would give out the worst contract in the league. Not $9 million? Really? For 7 goals? They mishandled prospects. Not to mention they would clean house, basically fire every person in the organization. And they couldn't even do that right, as they would even accidentally fire the wrong person and have to awkwardly hire them back. And after playing in pain, physically and mentally, Buffalo was on a goddamn 18-game losing streak. Let's not forget this. Jack Eichel would realize he needed a career-altering surgery. That is, he needed a disc replacement surgery. But here's the sauce. After talking to many experts, Jack Eichel wanted to try a surgery outside of what NHL players typically get. Because the traditional surgery, for most people, requires many more surgeries down the road. I had to deal with knee replacement surgery, and I can't imagine just the mental torture of thinking, I'm gonna have to do this many times in my life. And so if you commit to that traditional surgery, you're committing to a life of surgeries. Thus, Jack would opt for another surgery. It hasn't been done in hockey players, but it can be very beneficial to his entire life and career, of course, and has seen success in other sports. But because the Sabres didn't want to commit to this surgery, they refused him, telling him he has to get the traditional surgery if he wants to play as a Sabre again, which is just absurd. And what makes it even more absurd is the fact that if Eichel got his surgery and it failed, he could just instantly get the surgery the Sabres wanted anyways, so it literally didn't matter. And Jack Eichel would stick to his guns and refuse to go down that path, refusing to play for the Sabres unless he got his surgery that he wanted on his body. And what was the result? Well, they wouldn't let him, and they would also strip his captaincy. And you know what this tells us? This was purely an ego situation. Buffalo ownership and management was like, you're going against what we're saying. Well, guess you're not a Sabre anymore. Guess you're not the captain anymore. Ridiculous and just a power trip. And after months and months and more months of coverage and rumors, Eichel would be finally traded to the Vegas Golden Knights for Peyton Krebs, Alex Tuch, and a first and second round pick. Which in my opinion, to be completely honest, is not enough. Yes, Alex Tuch is a great player, but he's not a franchise piece. This trade solely depends on Krebs developing into a first-line player, and that other first-round pick becoming another roster player. But keep in mind, this pick's likely going to be in the 25 to 32 range. There is a lot of what-ifs here. But what isn't a what-if is the fact that Jack Eichel is going to be a superstar for the Vegas Golden Knights. And it blows my mind they couldn't even retain salary. Because then we're talking 2 first-round picks, and they're not winning anytime soon, so why not take the extra picks? It doesn't make sense. But I'm just glad it's over. Now, for you Buffalo fans, you guys still obviously have some very bright pieces. Owen Power coming up. And I pray they can make it work so all the suffering can end. So with the Eichel situation finally coming to an end, I thought it'd be a great time to go over NHL stars who refuse to play for their teams. So, has your team ever had a player who refused to play for your team? Comment down below. And also, YouTube has been making some changes and I have never asked for likes before. But if you enjoy the videos, I would truly appreciate it if you hit that like button. Ooh, and make sure to press subscribe for your weekly dose of hockey content. When it comes to NHL players, if they don't want to play, they can of course just straight up refuse to play. Now, they might get suspended and won't get paid, but it's as simple as that. But when a prospect gets drafted and refuses to play for their team, it's a completely different scenario. Now for leagues like the CHL, by the time you're graduated from the league, you are very likely to sign with your team and play in the minors. Or of course go to the big boys club. However, for the prospects that went down the NCAA route, not only can they get their degree playing exciting college hockey, but if they do decide to wait it out, they will become a free agent. Meaning, they can get their degree, refuse to play at the team that drafted them, and sign with any team that offers them a contract, which has led to some of the most dramatic contract situations in history. Now, some say this is a loophole, but this is a part of the CBA, and I doubt it will be changed. And back in 2016, teams will partake in one of the most hyped up sweepstakes in NHL history. And who was this for? A generational prospect? A bona fide superstar free agent? Nope. This sweepstake was held for Jimmy Vesey, as Vesey at the time was one of the most hyped up free agency signings ever. And why do you ask? After the dominance of Johnny Gaudreau and Jack Eichel, who went on to being instant impact players in the NHL, Jimmy Vesey was next in line. Because after being drafted in the 3rd round by the Nashville Predators, Vesey would commit to Harvard University. And after averaging a respectable 20 points in his first 2 seasons, Vesey would explode in 2015, as he would put up 32 goals, 58 points in 37 games, would win the Hobey Baker in his final season, as my man was the complete package: hands, physicality, shot, playmaking. And at this point, Vesey would straight up tell the Nashville Predators he would not play for them, and as a result, would enter the 2016 class of free agents, which just so happens to be the most cursed class of free agents probably in history, which is very ironic and just foreshadows the story. But at this point, teams were salivating over the idea of signing Vesey, as he could walk in and potentially be a top player on any team in the NHL. And as a result, it was reported that every team in the NHL was sending Vesey offers, which coined the headline, the Jimmy Vesey sweepstakes baby. The Buffalo Sabres would even trade the Preds a 3rd round pick just so they could have the chance to negotiate before other teams. And what do you know? Vesey, in a classic fashion, would sign with the New York Rangers, spitting in the face of the Predators who believed in him enough to draft him. And all the hype was real. In the first 10 games, Vesey had 6 goals, 9 points. My man was on pace for 49 goals, hot damn. But it would not go that way, as Vesey would score 10 goals in the next 70 games and was very inconsistent. The next season, we wouldn't see too much progression. The next year, the same thing. He'd be traded to Buffalo for the 2nd time, ironically enough for another 3rd round pick, where he would fail to progress even with more responsibility. He would sign with Toronto, get sent down on waivers and claimed by the Canucks, and today is a part of the New Jersey Devils. But my guy refused to play for his drafted team, and in a cursed 2016 offseason, went from one of the hottest free agent signings ever to being a depth player. But somehow, this story doesn't even come close to the dramatics of another Harvard player. Because back in 2016, right as Vesey was leaving Harvard with his Hobey Baker Award, the Calgary Flames would draft a guy named Adam Fox in the 3rd round. And well, Adam Fox was an absolute monster for Harvard. 40 points in 35 games as a freshman defenseman. Insane. My dude was looking like a generational talent and was a 3rd round pick. Except, around this time, there was rumblings that Adam Fox would refuse to play for the Calgary Flames. Thus, the Flames, knowing that they tragically weren't going to be able to sign Fox, would bundle him in a blockbuster deal for Noah Hannafin and Elias Lindholm. A slam dunk of a trade for Carolina if he signs, but that's an if. In 2019, Adam Fox would once again elevate his game, putting up an unbelievable 48 points in 33 games. However, once again, we would hear the rumblings that my man was not going to sign, as he only had one team in mind, which was the New York Rangers, as Adam Fox was a New York native. And even though Carolina now had a potential franchise defenseman, tragically, they would have to let him go, as they would trade Fox to New York for what is on paper, technically, well, it has to be one of the worst trades in NHL history. Now again, obviously he wasn't going to sign, but on paper it's just absurd, as the Canes would get back 2 second-round picks for a guaranteed franchise defenseman. Ugh, that hurts. And after the disappointment of the VC hype train, Adam Fox was legit, as he would have a fantastic rookie season, and as a sophomore, my man would take home a Norris Trophy, breaking the hearts of many fans who once had them in their possession. And this year, Fox would even break an NHL record, as he would sign a 7-year, $66.5 million contract, so a $9.5 million AAV, with less than 2 NHL seasons played. And this year, he has kept up the status quo, as he currently leads the Rangers in points, and all defensemen in points. And it is safe to say that Fox is a franchise defenseman, and arguably generational. And this past week, I even got to see him in person, as I attended a Flames-Rangers game. And let's just say that the Flames fans are still holding some resentment. Brutal, as my man was just straight up booed every time he was on the ice or touched the puck. But I guess that's what happens when you leave the team that believed in you. This season, we witnessed one of the greatest goals in NHL history, as Connor McDavid would effortlessly drive through 5 New York Rangers.
Having trouble changing here. McDavid, beautiful move,
and scored this beautiful goal. Oh my god. And I'm no means saying this player even comes close to the godlike ability of McDavid, but let's not forget that Pavel Bure was scoring these same goals before McDavid was even alive. Okay, so he didn't score, but I would like to emphasize again, this was one of Pavel Bure's first shifts in the NHL. Pavel Bure was pulling off these moves in his first NHL game, which led to one of the most electrifying careers in NHL history, as Pavel Bure in the 90s would uplift an entire Canucks franchise, as he was just a spectacle. His speed, shot, creativity, it was all incredible, which is why Bure would have back-to-back 60-goal seasons and carry Vancouver to the finals in '94. However, behind the scenes, there was a lot of drama. For one, on Bure's initial contract, he was evidently lowballed and taken advantage of, with promises that he would earn his big payday. And after 60-goal campaigns, he did, as Bure would sign a 5-year, $14.7 million contract, which, to be fair, was on par with other superstars in the league. Except, and I kid you not, in the fine print, Bure would be paid in Canadian dollars. NHL players never get paid in Canadian dollars, which meant, even though he signed at $14.7 million, he was taken advantage of again, as other stars were still making significantly more than Bure, which is just horrible. Like, why? Why do this to the star that uplifted your entire franchise and is making you millions of dollars? It just doesn't make any sense. Not to mention, they would tell Bure he'd be lucky to score 30 goals after signing this contract, when my man was a bona fide 60-goal scorer. Excuse me? And after agreeing to trade Bure and lying to him for years, trading his best friend Gino in just a meaningless deal, Bure was done. In fact, trading his best friend Gino was his final straw, as Bure would refuse to play another game in a Canucks uniform. And after missing nearly an entire season, Vancouver would trade Bure to the Florida Panthers in a blockbuster deal, mainly focused around Jovokop, Ed Jovanovski, and it is honestly crazy to think about how badly they treated the Russian Rocket.